is a presentation of BFA Sports.
And what up, what up? We are back on the NFL Draft Bible All Access Pass Show. Mike Gill, Ric Serritella from the NFL Draft Bible, the only Bible in the NFL draft world. It's used by all 32 teams. He is at the NFL Draft Guide. I'm in our Atlantic City studios, and we got a ton to get into today. A little Camp Confidential, Georgia, Pitt, opt-outs, news, notes, more. Let's get into it, Rick. Let's go right off the top on what's happened today. Bryce Young, the quarterbacks, they spoke. Bryce Young says he expects to be 200, and I'm interested to hear, does that solidify him as the number one pick if he comes in that range? The biggest question, is he too small? Do teams even care?
Right. Well, I mean, it depends on your comfort level, right? But the track record and the history tells us if you're a smaller quarterback, then you have issues withstanding the length of an NFL regular season. And now Drew Brees is an exception to the rule. But, Mike, I look around the NFL landscape, whether it's Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts, who plays much bigger, Tua, these frail, Kyler Murray, a dual threat, smaller framed quarterback. You've either got to build an offense around this guy and cater it to his skill set because he's that good. If you do, though, you've got to have a top tier backup quarterback because we've got the data, we've got the knowledge. The chances are he's probably going to get hurt at some point. And then what's the backup plan? Because if you don't have a contingency plan, selecting a guy like Bryce Young makes your backup quarterback spot the second most important position on your team.
Yeah, I've been on record. Look, I like Bryce Young. I think the kid is uberly talented. Some people have kind of compared him to a Patrick Mahomes, but 5'11". Some people wonder if he played this season at like 170. It's not the talent that bothers me. It's the durability, and I think teams have to have that in the back of your mind watching the season that Tua just had.
Sure. I mean, and he played at 197. I think he measured in at the spring. So today he said he's going to be around 200 pounds. I believe him. But remember now, that's about 20 pounds lighter than Tua. And we have nothing but durability concerns and issues with his durability. So remember, Bryce Young, he had that shoulder injury. He got tackled and had that fractured shoulder and missed a game. And that's going to happen every week on the NFL level.
No question. And listen, again, Bryce Young and your people, if you're watching this, I think you're great, man. I just am concerned about nothing you can do about it, your size. That is the big problem. This is the league of the giants. And when they get to you, look, you got a guy like Jalen Hurts who took a hit, sprained his shoulder, missed 2 games, and that lingered for a couple of weeks longer. We all know how big Jalen Hurts is. If that same hit happens to Bryce Young, how long is he out for and what's the extent of his injury? And I think teams have to keep that under consideration. That being said, probably the number one talent. The other guy who's the wild card, it's Anthony Richardson. He says he sees himself as a blend of Cam Newton and Lamar Jackson. Those are big boys right there. But is he on that level, Ric Serritella? What say you?
Oh, I'll tell you what, Mike, when it comes to upside, I think he's got the greatest potential. So I understand the allure. I've got love for the skill set. He's got all the tools in the shed. But when I watch the film, I don't really see that franchise quarterback. Now, when I watch the highlight tape, yeah, I get it. Oh, man, he's got that rocket arm, the howitzer of an arm. He can run like Justin Fields. He can throw deep downfield. It's just the accuracy issues, Mike. You've got to reel this guy in. And I think what happens when you take a guy in the top 10 or the first round, there's this expectation in the 2023 NFL landscape that you're expected to play immediately. And when you do that, you run the risk of the confidence level of either the quarterback or the team. And I say that because even third round picks like Desmond Ridder and Malik Willis were expected to see the field. And by the end of the season, Mike Vrabel was pulling Joshua Dobbs off the street to try to sneak into the back door to playoffs because he lost confidence in Malik Willis. And you wonder if you put AR-44 in there too early, do you run the risk of ruining his confidence? Does the team confidence dwindle down? With that being said, I mean, Jonathan Gannon is a guy, or Shane Steichen is a guy that comes over from the Eagles, is now with the Colts. They're at number 4. I mean, Steichen has got to be kind of licking his chops here with that possibility because we just mentioned a Jalen Hurts. Well, guess what? Anthony Richardson can do a lot of the things that Jalen Hurts does. And I think Shane Steichen would be a beautiful fit. And that's the other thing we don't talk about, Mike, is fit and scheme.
Well, I'll tell you what. You just mentioned the Colts at number 4. Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson. You could bet your bottom dollar that one of those 4 guys is going to be wearing an Indianapolis Colt uniform, period, point blank.
Agree.
All right. Camp Confidential, all access show, the NFL Draft Bible. We hit all the topics. Jalen Carter. The news broke on Wednesday when we were live on this show. What is the fallout now? How will this affect him? He is going to work out. He's going to do everything. It almost seems like, okay, the firestorm came out, and now let's get back into the rhythm. Does this affect his draft stock at all?
Well, I think he's going to work out at his pro day, Mike. He was down on the field during the defensive line drills, cheering on his participants, which I think was a great look. And I thought coming back to Indianapolis, he went back to Athens. He showed responsibility for the Chargers. He got booked and bailed for $4,000. He came back to Indianapolis. And most importantly, he had to complete that medical evaluation, which we don't see that on the NFL Network, but that is still the number one most important element of the NFL scouting combine. So I thought it was critical for him to not only come back and complete the medical portion, some of the additional psychological tests, but I thought it was important to come back and show, you know what, these are misdemeanor charges. They carry the maximum of up to 1 year in jail, and he's downplaying it and saying he's going to be cleared. So I thought coming back, showing that, hey, this is not a big of a deal as you media guys are making it out to be. I thought it was a good move by his PR team.
Georgia, the whole. What about Georgia? They had other names that need to be mentioned here. Georgia, that's who. What do we got?
Yeah, Nolan Smith. I mean, are you kidding me? This guy is just a freak. 4.39. I mean, he's running faster than some of the running backs in the NFL at 6'2", 238. He's coming off that pectoral injury, so he was able to run. He was able to train. Listen, this guy's bend, his athleticism coming off the edge. You combine that with the twitch and the athletic movements and the skill set. And dude, 41.5-inch vertical, 11-something broad jump. Are you kidding me? Nolan Smith, to me, he's a top half of the first round lock.
Nolan Smith, as we mentioned, isn't the only guy that had a big day. We'll talk a little bit about some of those other guys, but let's take a look at, who else ran down there. You mentioned Nolan Smith, Robert Beal as well, another Georgia name, Byron Young, Tennessee. There were some guys who had a big day for the defensive linemen.
Yeah, I don't know if it was the Indianapolis Motor Raceway, Mike, or Lucas Oil Stadium, because we say it every year. Athletes get bigger, stronger, faster. I've come around. We used to say you can't teach speed, but kudos and shout out to all the combine trainers. I mean, these guys are running times that we've never seen before. I mean, it's really unheard of. And we saw records, all throughout the day. And we're going to continue to see that, I believe, all throughout the week. And Cincinnati, the wide receiver there, Tucker, I hear he might compete with that John Ross record.
Yeah, and, you got to you mentioned can't teach speed. Well, there are plenty of people teaching speed classes at young ages now. They are teaching people to be faster. By the way, you have Nolan Smith in the NFL Draft Bible, big board, 3-4 outside linebackers as your number 2 player, only behind Will Anderson. Do we sense maybe a flip-flop, or is Will Anderson still the top guy there easily?
Yeah, for me, Will Anderson is now the cleanest prospect, Mike, when you talk about on-field ability and off-the-field character. NFL teams are going to want to do their due diligence on Jalen Carter's character, who we already discussed. But to me, it was between Carter and Anderson in terms of who is the blue chip of the blue chip prospects. It is now Will Anderson, as far as I'm concerned. I loved his movement, going through the bag drills, change of direction. I think most importantly, he showed scouts that he can drop back in coverage. He can cover. He can get after the quarterback. We mentioned Jonathan Gannon, right? The Cardinals don't need a quarterback. I think he could plug Will Anderson in and play somewhat similar of a Hassan Reddick type of role. And so I think that Will Anderson could be number 1. He'd look really good at what I think the Cardinals are at number 3.
4.6 40, 161 10-yard split, 253, 6'3". Sounds like a quarterback terror to me. Let's go
Clean.
to was at the combine. Who opted out that we won't see from that group yesterday?
Yeah, we saw Tyree Wilson, who was coming off an injury. He did not work out. We saw Zach Harrison from Ohio State, a day 2 projected defensive end. also nursing a hamstring injury, I believe, from what was reported. And so now we're starting to see some of the other players who were anticipated to work out here, Mike. I hear now Dalton Kincaid out of Utah, the tight end who has now ascended into the first round conversation. He's going to wait until his pro day. Unfortunately, Devin Witherspoon, who had a tremendous Senior Bowl, he is going to opt out here at the combine. And I think that opens up the door of opportunity for a Joey Porter Jr., for a Gonzalez out of Oregon, for a Kaylee Ringo, who says he's going to run in the low 4.3 range here in Indianapolis.
Well, it's funny. I've had some people on my radio show talking about it seems a little split. Devin Witherspoon, where he's at. I've had people tell me that he's their favorite corner. You like Joey Porter Jr. How does this affect Witherspoon? If you think he's the best, how does that affect him in this process?
Well, you're out of sight, out of mind, right? Devin Witherspoon's the hot flavor of the week because we all saw him down at the Senior Bowl where he crushed it. One-on-ones all week long, 7-on-7s. He was sticking everybody like glue, but now you're out of sight, out of mind. It's time for the big dogs to come down and run through Lucas Oil Stadium. So now you got guys that are bigger, stronger, maybe just as fast, if not faster. I mean, Joey Porter is 4 inches taller, 25 pounds heavier, and might run just as fast, if not faster, of a Devin Witherspoon. So I think Witherspoon blew an opportunity to capitalize on the momentum from the Senior Bowl and sustain that number one spot.
It's the NFL Draft Bible All Access Pass Show. We're giving you all the access live from Indianapolis. He is the godfather, the OG of the NFL Draft Bible. Your number 3 wide receiver in the Draft Bible. That is Ohio State's Jackson Smith-Njigba. Not going to run. He says the hamstring's A-okay. But what's this show that he's not running at the combine?
You know, we're seeing this more and more, Mike. More first-round guys opting out of the draft, waiting to their pro day. It's a home field turf. He'll have a couple additional weeks now to kind of try to shave that time down. And, you know, this is the byproduct of 2023 NFL draft, where we fall now more and more players opting out of the combine. I wish the NFL would just replace these opportunities that are being taken away, especially from some of the small school guys who deserve to be here. These guys took an opportunity away. They came out to Indianapolis. Hey, you want to meet with NFL teams? Great. Then buckle up and go home and get out of town. Give somebody else a shot who wants to come in and compete.
Okay, that's obviously the wide receiver class. Let's get a quick thought from you on this wide receiver crew. NFL Draft Bible, you've got 4 first-round talents in this year's draft.
Yeah, I think, you know, we talked about Jackson Smith-Njigba, a versatile guy, can line up all over the field. Quentin Johnston, for me, still my number 1 guy. I just like the size, the athleticism, ability to go over the middle. I think he's the number 1 wide receiver if you like the lengthy, you know, big body guy. We also have Jordan Addison from USC. It'll be interesting to see if he's going to run here in Indianapolis. So those are probably the top 3 wide receivers. And then Tank Dell, you know, I thought this guy, you know, a lot of people want to say Zay Flowers out of Boston College is that guy. I like Tank Dell. I think Tank Dell is a better route runner than Zay Flowers. I think he has more speed than Zay Flowers. And I think he is the ideal prototypical slot wide receiver. Tank Dell, buckle up. This is one of my combine faves, Mike.
NFL Draft Bible's All Access Pass Show. We go to defense. Kalijah Kancey wowed the people. He wowed the people. The Pitt standout. He had Aaron Donald type of numbers. 6'1", 281, though. Was he a little undersized for the D-tackle position?
Well, you know what, Mike? He played at about 270, 275. So I think the fact that he put on an extra weight, he can continue to do that. There was talk that he would come in under 6 feet tall. He actually measured at 6 foot 6/8 inches, right? So he's getting the benefit of the doubt there on the NFL Network. 6'1", 281. I think he's a combine winner. And oh, by the way, he's been compared to another undersized defensive tackle out of Pittsburgh. Aaron Donald previously held the all-time defensive tackle record for the 40-yard dash. How about Kalijah Kancey? He comes in 4'6'7", tops the former Panthers mark of 4'6'8". Kalijah Kancey just made history.
All right, he's not the only one though that had an
Look at
eye
my guy Dan Vandernat, NFL PA Bowl in the building, baby. Best evaluator in the game right there.
There we go. You never know who's going to pop in on the NFL Draft Bible All Access Pass show. Kalijah Cansey popped in at the top, but there were other D linemen who had a day yesterday.
Yeah, I like this Derek Hall out of Auburn, and I don't know if he stays at the defensive end position or they stand him up, but I think Derek Hall is one of these guys who did capitalize on that momentum at the Senior Bowl and carried that into Indianapolis, went out there and ran a 4.55 40-yard dash, went through the positional drills, and looked like he was just moving at a whole different level than all of the other players who came through. So I like what Derek Hall did. Double A from Northwestern. I mean, this guy had himself a day, and you wonder too. He's a very similar frame at 6'1", 280 pounds. He's a very similar kind of body type as Kalijah Cansey. Now, Cansey's more of that interior guy. Double A from Northwestern, I thought maybe he might be a 5 tech, but after what I saw, the quickness, the explosion, the ability to get off, I think maybe he now is a potential 43 hand in the dirt defensive end who goes possibly inside the first round. And Isaiah Foskey out of Notre Dame, I think, is another guy that has to be considered. I think pass rushers get pushed up the board. I can't think of another NFL. I mean, every NFL team is looking for an additional pass rusher, and there's some good ones in this year's draft.
Yeah, we had the top 5 runners yesterday. Cansey was the one. Jalen Redmond, Oklahoma. It was a Big 12 kind of day. Dante Still from West Virginia. That's my alum, baby. You got a Pitt guy and a West Virginia guy battling it out for the top speed. Little backyard brawl at the top. Brian Breesy from Clemson, who, by the way, probably a top 15 pick, and that speed may have cemented that for him. We'll see if he can make that jump. And then Gervin Dexter, Florida State. So 2 ACC guys ran well yesterday down there at the Combine. All right, it's the NFL Draft Bible All Access Show. Mike and Rick, Sports Illustrated, the NFL Draft Bible. Let's give some little notables. Give us a little nuggets, little breadcrumbs. What are we hearing down there? Some players who continue to kind of jump off the page.
Well, you know what, Mike? I think we talked about AR-44 earlier in the show, and we're going to see what he can do on Saturday. I think the quarterbacks will be throwing, but from what I'm hearing is he's impressing scouts on the whiteboard in these NFL team interviews. A lot of teams coming out thoroughly impressed with the knowledge and intelligence of an Anthony Richardson. So I think that's going to bode very well as the draft process continues here. Bijan Robinson, you know what? I think this guy is a legitimate top 5 overall selection. And we talked about Chicago moving out of that number 1 pick, Mike. And if Gannon were to take Will Anderson there, I think the Bears might have to think about Bijan Robinson long and hard, because if you pair him up with the Justin Fields, that's going to be the most dangerous backfield duo in the NFL. I think the Bears have to think long and hard about that possibility.
What's the scuttlebutt on Robinson? We heard Will Anderson right here on NFL Draft Bible All Access last week, Wednesday, our last show, talk about he was the best player he's ever played against. What's the buzz about where he could land in this draft? We know running backs generally don't go. Saquon Barkley was a 2 pick. They're getting criticized for that a couple years later now, saying, hey, now you can't even maybe bring him back. So what's the scuttlebutt on Robinson's draft positioning?
I mean, he's as good as any running back I've ever evaluated. I think he's right in there in that Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott. I think Adrian Peterson was a guy. He's in that upper tier echelon. I think he is a top 5 pick. Yeah, I mean, I think he's the real deal. I mean, what can't Bijan Robinson do?
Well, we know it's not about what he can do. It's about where where teams like to draft running backs. That's the question, right?
Yeah, but you know what, Mike? I see the trend coming back around to the run game. I see more teams running the ball, more balanced, more 1,000-yard rushers. We saw, I think, 3 running backs maybe go closer over the 1,500-yard barrier. So we're starting to see rushing numbers that we haven't typically seen. And the NFL works in trends. And I think when you've got a rare talent who, quite frankly, is one of the top 5 talents in the NFL, that's a nice piece to add to the offense. And I'm really typically not a big fan of selecting running backs in the first round. However, sometimes there are exceptions to the rule, and Bijan Robinson is that exception.
From the running backs to the defense, the linebackers. When you were a kid, you wanted to be a running back and a linebacker. The linebackers ran yesterday. Who stood out?
Yeah, the linebackers class is good. The Washington linebacker, I think I'm a big fan of Henley. Refresh my memory, Mike. We're running on fumes out here. Who
Well, you
ran
had
yesterday?
Capone from Auburn have a big day yesterday.
Capelli, yeah, he ran what 4.39 or something. He blew the roof off the gymnasium of Lucas Oil Stadium. We saw Trenton Simpson, right? Clemson. You talk about off-ball linebackers. I think this is a top 20 overall selection, Trenton Simpson. And, some of these off-ball linebackers have kind of been devalued in terms of draft relevance as well. But I mean, Clemson has done, I thought, a great job of putting out some of these hybrid linebackers that can move around, be versatile. Trenton Simpson certainly fits that mold.
Guy I like to watch all year, Dorian Williams from Tulane. That was a great defense all year, and he was kind of the spearhead of that defense. He had a big day, 4.49. DJ Johnson from Oregon, 4.49. And D. Winters, TCU, 4.49 as well. So you had some linebackers that can move. And, yeah, you're right, Rick. Where do they fit into today's NFL? That's the big question, is what kind of draft stock do these linebackers have? What's the ceiling for a linebacker? I guess it all depends on the team. We talk about a team like Philadelphia. They don't like to take linebackers early. They got Nakobe Dean in the 3rd round last year. So is that kind of where some of these linebackers maybe you got to start thinking about now?
Yeah, I think that there is some truth to that. And you mentioned the Eagles, who are following the NFL trend of smaller, athletic linebackers. They believe in smaller linebackers, and I think you can get a lot of these guys that are so evenly ranked, right? Like, who's that big impact linebacker who's going to make a difference? Well, hey, if there's not that impact blue chip guy, why not sit back? Why not wait, see who falls? You can fill that need later on in the draft. You can still, to your point, Mike, plug and play a starter in round 2 or round 3, because up top the board is so evenly stacked. You might get a pleasant surprise later on in the draft. That's one position you can wait on.
All right, it is the NFL Draft Bible, all access pass show. Ric Serritella, Sports Illustrated, the NFL Draft Bible. You're going to be speaking today, right after one Adam Schefter. Tell the people about where you're speaking and what you guys are all talking about.
Yeah, I'm over here at the Sports Management Worldwide Football Career Conference, Mike. I've been I guess honored and lucky enough to be part of this event for the last 5 or 6 years. It's something I really enjoy doing, passing it forward to the next generation of aspiring scouts, media, guys like Adam Schefter from ESPN. Marath Parag from the 49ers spoke last night. We got Scott Fitterer, I believe, the GM of the Carolina Panthers here. You saw Dane Vandernat, who I work with at the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl. So I'll be on the football scouting and analytics panel with our guy Aaron Schatz of Football Outsiders. I think Mike Tannier's also here in the building. So just a smorgasbord of the who's who in the football community. And hey, that's what we do here out in Indianapolis. Fumes and adrenaline, baby. Buckle up.
I like it. As we kind of wind the clock down for our 2 minutes here, a couple names that stick out, just off the top of my head, I'm watching last night. Now, you're at the Combine. I'm watching on TV. Zach Pickens, South Carolina. He's a D tackle guy that I kind of was like, okay. He opened up some eyes for me there. Lucas Van Ness, he's a guy that you like a lot, 4.58. I think that kind of started the day good for him. To kind of Will McDonald, Iowa State. I like a lot of Big 12. I watch a lot of Big 12. We don't think defense in the Big 12, but I like Iowa State. Love Matt Campbell. I thought that Will McDonald had a good day yesterday for the defensive end spot. We talked about linebackers. Drew Sanders from Arkansas, I thought was interesting. Man, I'm trying to think a couple guys that stood out to me off the top of my head. Benton from Wisconsin, I thought had a nice day yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, the defensive line has got some good depth to it when you go through some of these names. And Will McDonald, to me, this is a prototypical developmental edge rusher, right? Because you saw down in Mobile at the Senior Bowl how quick he was off the ball, and he has the ability to get after the quarterback. However, we talk about size. He can easily add like 10, 15 pounds of bulk. So you get him into an NFL strength and conditioning program for a year, Mike, and you've got a guy that you can develop into a situational pass rusher who is Will McDonald, a literal cyclone on the field, man. This guy, did you see the spin move he throws on people? This guy's lightning quick.
Let me give you another name. Army, Andre Carter. Give me your thoughts on what we're watching here with this prospect.
Yeah, so Carter has been disappointing, and that's we talk about risers. he's a slider, Mike. He had a disappointing Senior Bowl week. I think some of his stiffness against the top tier competition stood out to the evaluators. And then he came and put in subpar numbers. I think he only had like a 30-inch vertical jump. His 40 was in the 4.7 range. So not exactly the kind of numbers and athleticism that you're expecting to see. The 10-yard split wasn't there. I mean, those are some of the benchmarks that you want to start hitting when you are an Andre Carter, who at one point was considered a potential first round pick. Now, Mike, I got news for you. He might slide till day 3.
Andre Carter, NFL Draft Bible's big board, you have him ranked 12th as a possible 4th round pick in that. You're right. I've seen him mocked in the 1st round in some mock drafts, and not a great day for him. Tui Pelotu came in kind of a tweener. He was a guy I was really intrigued by. USC, could it be a tackle? It looks like he wants to be an end.
Yeah, I think he came in at like 260 pounds, 261,
266 is what he weighed in.
Yeah, so, I mean, like,
he was listed at 290 by the school, by the way.
Yeah, and so I think that's where teams, like with his role at the next level, you've got to have a very specific design in mind, because depending on where you want to play him, he's either going to have to maintain that weight or go back and add some weight. Now on film, he looked to be a quick, fast, agile guy. Well, he's playing, who knows now at what weight. That's a good question. I want to know, what was his actual playing weight as opposed to his listed playing weight. I think it does impact his draft status in terms of some teams depending on fit and scheme.
Okay, Ric Serritella, you are in Indianapolis, the combine going on. What are some of the things you're watching for today?
Yeah, today, I mean, we got the quarterbacks coming through the podiums. I mean, Will Levis is one of the quirkiest personalities. You've heard about his mayonnaise, coffee shenanigans. I mean, my man is eating oranges straight with the peel. I mean, this guy's an interesting cat. Like, I mean, I think his podium session could get interesting. I'm looking forward to CJ Stroud, right? We saw Bryce Young earlier today be the perfect kind of CEO quarterback, answered everything just the way that you expect the leader of a franchise to answer all the questions. Well, he set the standard now with his media sessions. How does everybody else compare and stack up, and what are the kind of impressions that they make?
Give me a quarterback to keep an eye on that's not one of those 4.
I like the Purdue quarterback, Aiden O'Connell. To me, he's a big-time player. I've seen him single-handedly put the Boilermakers on his back, bring them from behind. I mean, they're not playing with the wide receivers that CJ Stroud has at Ohio State. But I think Aiden O'Connell, you talk about this poise in the pocket. He's cool as a cucumber, handles high-pressure situations, has a ton of experience, is an accurate thrower, can make all the throws in the short to intermediate parts of the field where most of the NFL is won. Aiden O'Connell exceeds expectations. That's why I think he's going to be decade in the league, holding a clipboard, a valuable backup guy that can come in, kind of hold the fort in spurts. Maybe not your starter, but a guy that you can kind of be confident in and give you an opportunity to win.
All right, let's finish up with, we know when the quarterbacks throw, they usually create new buzz. Will we be having new buzz at the end of the quarterback day? Who's going to benefit the most from today?
Yes, I think the buzz will be deafening after Anthony Richardson throws today, because he's going to have some deep balls, Mike. And I think he's going to add some rollouts and throwing on the run and flicking the wrist. And we all know that these trick shot throws now, I'm not a big believer in them, but obviously Zach Wilson won some people over with his trick shot quarterback throws. And I think Anthony Richardson is going to show you, hey, I've got the strongest arm. I've got the biggest physical body. I've got the athleticism and wheels to beat you with my feet. And I think that the traits are going to just leave scouts picking their jaws up off the floor, Mike.
All right, that's it for us. The NFL Draft Bible's All Access Show. We're back on Monday at 10 a.m. Like, rate, review, subscribe, and check us out Monday at 10 o'clock. Check us out on Twitter. And, of course, the Combine continues. We'll have more. Ric Serritella will be on the radio Friday night with me on 97.3 ESPN in Atlantic City. We'll be talking to him in the 5 o'clock hour when all this stuff materializes, and we'll get another sense of the quarterbacks who runs Combine. Kicks off the draft season, and you're getting the best draft insight and analysis live from the NFL Combine right here on the NFL Draft Bible Show. All Access Pass, BFA Sports, Sports Illustrated. Ryan Schumacher produced today's show. For Rick, I'm Mike. We out.